The World Food Programme's 2025 Global Outlook reports that acute hunger will affect an estimated 343 million people in 74 countries. According to the WFP, Nigeria is facing a severe food security crisis, with 33 million people projected to be food insecure this year. Now, the data shows that immediate support is needed to avert a potential food and nutrition disaster, where the combination of triple-digit increases in food prices, the aftermath of devastating floods, and 15 years of insurgency in the Northeast are stretching families to the limit. The Food Security and Nutrition Report projects a hunger crisis in the second half of this year, 2025, particularly in the northeastern states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, where 5 million people are facing acute food insecurity. While the risk includes other areas too, notably emerging hunger hotspots in Zamfara, Katsina, and Sokoto states.
We're now being joined by the country director of the World Food Programme, David Stevenson. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Great. You know, I was looking at the report, and Nigeria tops the list of countries with the highest number of people facing acute food insecurity between 2016 and 2024, with about 31.8 million people. So this points to a damning pattern and not just the current crisis. I have to ask you, Mr. Stevenson, why do you think we are seeing such persistent, escalating hunger? How does a country remain on such statistics for over 6 years, going to 8 years, despite billions of aids and intervention? What are we doing wrongly in Nigeria?
Well, you've mentioned two global reports, and Nigeria is at the top of the list. I've got the Global Food Crisis Report here, and the first country mentioned is Nigeria, along with Myanmar and Sudan, for those countries in 2024 that have had increased severity of food insecurity. Now, what we have in Nigeria since 2010 is declining security situation. WFP was asked to come to the country in 2015 to help with the problems primarily in the Northeast, conflict and increasing malnutrition. So over the last 10 years, we've been working flat out with government partners, with cooperating partners in the Northeast, dealing with the hunger-related effects of conflict. And that conflict, unfortunately, continues today. Since January of this year, there's been about 450 attacks in the Northeast. Just last week, we had 10,000 civilians in Marte walk to Dikwa because of security concerns, being attacked in their home. We had over 40 farmers killed simply because they returned to farming in the Northeast. The effects of insecurity are real, and that used to be the breadbasket of the region, the breadbasket of Nigeria, but also feeding parts of West Africa, the Sahelian West Africa. 2010, Maiduguri flour mills used to produce 400 tons a day of wheat flour. I was there some weeks ago, and now they're producing nothing in terms of wheat flour, some maize. So the solution is peace and production. Unfortunately, there is still a challenge that we're all concerned with addressing the best we can.
Yes, indeed. I mean, like you say, the solution is peace, and let's talk about other areas where you can actually have control over. The issue of funding, that's depleting over and over again with the USAID and what have you. How is WFP helping in the area of funding with the thinning, source of funding from the USAID and the rest of them? What are you doing in terms of looking for other alternatives? And of course, the issue of climate change, that's also within the control of man.
Yeah.
What are you doing in that regard?
Well, the effects of hunger in the country, of course, are conflict, there are climate change, we've had droughts and floods in the country, and there's been food inflation, tremendous food inflation in the last 2 years, triggered by the reforms. Everybody agrees they were well-needed reforms, ending the fuel subsidy, balancing the exchange rate, but still prices are now double what they were 2 years ago, so Nigerians being priced out of the market. Now, in terms of what can be done, The most important thing World Food Program has done is worked with government and civil society to come up with a strategy on humanitarian solutions. How can we help build back the food system in the north, from Lake Chad all the way across to Sokoto, where there are pockets of peace and stability, get people back farming and get them producing again. This is critical to have more than just a handout humanitarian approach. Realize there are life-saving needs, and it's very important to meet those needs for a combination of reasons, but find ways to meet those life-saving needs with solutions, with resilience and getting people back to productivity. In terms of dwindling resources internationally, this is a concern. Donors need to prioritize and are prioritizing, and the kind of approach to find solutions, but also involve the private sector, more government ownership and leadership in these challenges, but at the same time advocating. And we're advocating hard that Nigeria, particularly northern Nigeria, stays on the priority list. As I mentioned, it's the first country mentioned in this global food crisis report. This is not the time to step back. In fact, this is the time to step up and help solve this problem. Peace and production, but also continuing to stay the course so that we don't have increased political, economic instability. We prevent sort of involuntary migration. People, if people have nothing to eat, they're going to walk.
Right.
And where are they going to walk to? They're gonna find a place where they can find subsistence. So it's a lot better to keep them where they are, but give them a livelihood and help them solve these issues themselves through their own self-reliance.
Yeah. In other words, Nigeria cannot afford for this to go into like a full-scale famine. But there's something I saw in this report, and it does give me mixed reactions, and I wonder if you could provide insight. The report highlights that famine was averted in Gaza earlier this year through scaled up aid. But in Sudan, somewhere in Africa, it's confirmed famine and says it's spreading. There's a stark difference. How is it that, famine was averted in Gaza, but in Sudan, we have it there and it's spreading? Was it access? Was it political will? Or was it a failure of humanitarian intervention? And if it could be averted in Gaza, would you say enough is being done in countries like Nigeria, where you have over 30 million people facing acute hunger?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to talk too much about the complex situation in Gaza. But you're right to mention that if there was a decline in hunger in Gaza, it was because there was access. It was because the World Food Program and others were allowed into the zone and were able to provide assistance. That continues to be a challenge for Gaza. Now, Gaza, in terms of land mass, is a fraction of Sudan. It's a fraction of northern Nigeria. So what you have in Sudan and in Nigeria is a much more dispersed population that is suffering from hunger and food insecurity. And the challenges again are to get them back into their farms, but their farms are spread out. And so the security needs to be there in a much broader area for that peace and production strategy to really take hold.
Right. Food wastage. I mean, it's shocking to hear that a third of all food produced is lost or wasted. And it applies across the globe, whether you're talking about Nigeria or in other parts of the world. What exactly is WFP's response in terms of strategies, to come up with, initiatives that will reduce, if not, totally eliminate wastage, especially in Nigeria, more especially in the northern part of the country where this problem seems to be really dire? Yeah.
So driving the humanitarian food system solutions strategy is a report that we'll be releasing in June. It was done, co-authored by African Development Bank, by IFPRI, an international research firm, and the World Food Program. And it looks like the food system across the north of the country.
Okay.
And certainly one of the observations made is the effects of post-harvest losses, 40, 50, even 60% in the case of some perishable communities. So it's recommending, we are recommending investment in small-scale storage, local silos to preserve food, and then increasing the productivity through the value chain, including cold storage for perishable goods. And we're confident that with this kind of evidence-based research and the recommendation to move forward with private-public financing, increasing the activity and the partnership with the private sector, working with agencies like ourselves to leverage our strengths, we can really make an impact where there is stability and peace, and farming can continue, and then agro-processing can kick in and drive the economy.
All right. In the interventions and the strategies that you have highlighted, what role do you think that local communities can play, if any? Nigeria seems to be tending towards smart farming. Everybody grow what you eat. Do you think that can perhaps play a role in trying to end hunger? Well,
one thing I know about Nigeria is you've got such incredible innovative talent. So any innovations in the agricultural sector are welcome, and I'm confident that the Nigerians will find a way, including these kinds of new farming techniques that are out there. There are countries which have so much less potential in terms of agricultural productivity, but are doing better because of modern innovation, and including vertical farming and urban farming and so on. So I think that is an area to go with. Now, I also think that the challenges in Nigeria are very much for Nigeria and Nigerians to solve, but also I do very much believe in the solidarity and assistance of the international community, in part because the challenges affect not only Nigeria, they're affecting West Africa. And therefore the solutions are of a benefit to Nigeria, but also West Africa, and even beyond, in terms of the biggest country in Africa, the biggest economy in Africa. The benefits of stability, the benefits of growth are good for all of us wherever we are globally. So we're asking our donor partners to stay the course, and we're working with our government partners in the private sector to do everything we can to increase the agricultural economy and solve hunger.
Yeah, and many would say solving the hunger problem is at the state level. Is WFP engaging with state governments, to walk the talk, to, drive this, war against hunger and malnutrition?
Well, that's what we do as a UN agency. We're very operational, somewhat uniquely. My job at the World Food Program is almost like a CEO of a large company. What I do is sign contracts with local food suppliers, with retailers, with transporters, and with cooperating partners. My biggest office in the country is in Maiduguri. I have an office in Damaturu. We have a helicopter fleet for the UN as a family and local partners, but it's managed by myself and my office. That takes us out to the most insecure hubs in the Northeast, where the roads are not safe. So very much it's a localized way of working, and we work hand to hand with government partners at the federal level, but most importantly, as you say, at the state level, the governors throughout the north.
All right, I guess we're being wrapped up. We'll have to leave it there. David Stevenson is Country Director, World Food Program, WFP. Thank you for joining us on Newsnight, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much.